In the top stories, Federation participates in UN climate change negotiations. 6 financial institutions under investigation in Jamaica, and climate activists demand action now as thousands converge on Glasgow. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Monday, the 1st of November 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, St. Kitts and Nevis is joining the rest of the international community at the United Nations Climate Change Conference of the Parties, or COP26, in Glasgow, Scotland, from the 31st of October to the 12th of November. The delegation includes Minister of Environment and Cooperatives, the Honourable Eric Evelyn, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Environment, Sharon Rattan, and Environmental Education Officer in the Ministry of Environment and Cooperatives, Darion Edmeade. COP26 will bring parties together to accelerate action towards the goals of the Paris Agreement and the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. This year's COP is considered to be the last chance to keep hopes alive of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius so that ecosystems and agriculture can be restored to avoid loss of homes, lives, and livelihoods. As a small island developing state, St. Kitts and Nevis hopes that the commitment of $100 billion a year in climate finance to help poorer countries is followed. The delegation will join the voices of colleagues to call for greater ambition in keeping global temperature increase well below 2 degrees Celsius. COP is where decisions are made by 197 countries to prevent dangerous human interference with the climate. The police have confirmed that prisoner Alfonso Thompson of West Farm turned himself in on Sunday after he escaped custody at the JNF General Hospital, where he was admitted as a patient on Friday, October 29. Thompson was convicted on the 22nd of October for making use of threatening language and was sentenced to serve 30 days in prison. In other news, in efforts to highlight the benefits of drinking more water, Lake Health and Well-Being is launching a dance competition as part of the You're Sweet Enough campaign. The competition runs from Monday, November 1 until the 21st, with public voting taking place from the 22nd to the 29th. According to a press release, the dance competition is open to current students, teachers, principals, parents of students, and past students of primary and secondary schools in the Federation. Participants must learn the official You're Sweet Enough dance at www.youaresweetenough.com/dance, record themselves performing the dance to the jingle, and then upload the recording to the competition's webpage for a public vote. Variation to the routine and the use of props are allowed. Speaking on behalf of the Curriculum Development Unit Coordinator Michelle Sutton, applauded the initiative and is quoted as saying, "The Curriculum Development Unit is committed to empowering students to lead active and healthy lives. The You're Sweet Enough campaign has created much needed buzz in our community to inspire and encourage all to drink more water. The campaign's virtual school dance competition provides an excellent opportunity to bring a positive health message packaged in a fun and active way to our students' homes, schools, and communities." End quote. The competition is being held in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, Ross University School of Veterinary Medicine, Taiwan ICDF, Island Purified Water, and Pure Water. We now move to news on the regional scene. In Jamaica, at least 6 institutions operating in the island's financial sector have been flagged by the Financial Investigations Division as they are not in compliance with the law and their operations may be used to facilitate money laundering. More in this CVM Live news report.
At least 6 financial institutions across the island have been flagged by the Financial Investigations Division's FID since the start of the year. According to Principal Director of the FID, Keith Darion, the 6 unnamed institutions have been operating in the financial sector contrary to the law and are open to facilitating money laundering.
We believe that a couple of these institutions will be prosecuted, or they will have to address from a standpoint of the fixed penalty regime, which was included in the Proceeds of Crime Act in November 2019.
Despite this, Darion says there is generally a high level of compliance by financial institutions to the provisions of the Proceeds of Crime Act, POCA.
Currently, we are experiencing a compliance rate of approximately 90% or over 90%. Here to date, we have received over 50,000 suspicious transaction reports and large cash reports from these reporting entities.
And as for asset recovery cases,
between January and October 2021, the division concluded investigations into 17 asset recovery matters involving criminal benefits or assets with accumulated value of 1.185 billion Jamaican dollars and just over US 182,000.
this, he says, is a 50% increase in the number of investigations conducted into asset recovery and a 130% increase in the value of criminal assets or benefits identified, which are subject to confiscation or forfeiture order. At present, there are approximately 40 active criminal forfeiture cases being handled by the FID.
The Antigua and Barbuda government says it will make it easy for students to get vaccinated once schools resume face-to-face classes this week. Unvaccinated students have until November 11 to take their jab to continue in-person learning past that date. More in this ABS News report.
Unvaccinated students who return for face-to-face classes this week won't have to go far to get their COVID jabs. Education Minister, the Honorable Davil Matthew, says the government will take the vaccine to the students.
The Ministry of Health is putting a mechanism in place where the vaccine, the mobile vaccine vaccination unit will go to schools to administer the vaccines to those eligible children.
Beginning this Tuesday until November 11, all students will return to school for face-to-face classes. The schools will operate on shift systems to manage the numbers on the plans.
On the 11th of November, all students who are eligible to be vaccinated must be vaccinated by that time.
The minister says from that date, unvaccinated students cannot return for in-person classes unless they are too young to take the jab or have received a medical exemption.
There is a committee that is in place, chaired by the Director of Education, with personnel from the Ministry of Health and the Medical Association and so forth, that will go over the request for medical exemption.
Minister Matthew encourages parents to let their eligible children take the vaccine. He says between 5,000 and 6,000 of the 8,000 eligible students have already taken the jab, and 90% of teachers are vaccinated. Local health officials recommend the vaccine for everyone 12 years and older. Jamie J. Roche, ABS News.
Internationally, many demonstrators have traveled from across Europe to attend the COP26 summit, demanding that leaders turn words into action on the climate crisis. More in this France 24 report.
Crowds of campaigners gathered in Glasgow on Saturday to demand that world leaders act on climate change. It was the biggest protest so far ahead of the UN's COP26 summit, which begins on Sunday. Demonstrators marched through the city holding placards and chanting. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg was met by a media scrum as she arrived at the railway station, and police officers had to escort her through the crowds and streets of the city. She was among several activists coming from London on a special COP26 train. Demonstrators were led by members of the Extinction Rebellion Direct Action Group, which has brought cities around the world to a standstill. The group has vowed to do the same in Glasgow. Some protesters held banners reading, "The era of injustice is over, climate justice now, and climate refugees welcome." More than 100 world leaders are set to attend the major summit, which is thought to be pivotal in the fight against climate change. Many environmentalists are calling the two-week summit the world's last chance to turn the tide in the battle against climate change.
Barclays Chief Executive Jess Staley will step down following a probe by British regulators into his ties with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. More in this Reuters report.
Barclays Chief Executive Jess Staley is standing down following British regulators' investigations into his ties with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Barclays said it was made aware on Friday evening of the preliminary conclusions of the probe. It looked into Staley's characterisation to Barclays of his relationship with Epstein and the subsequent description of that relationship in the bank's response to the regulator. Barclays said in a statement, the board is disappointed at this outcome. Mr Staley has run the Barclays Group successfully since December 2015 with real commitment and skill. The bank added it should be noted that the investigation makes no findings that Mr Staley saw or was aware of any of Mr Epstein's alleged crimes, which was the central question underpinning Barclays' support for Mr Staley following the arrest of Mr Epstein in the summer of 2019. Staley told staff in an internal memo seen by Reuters that he did not want his personal response to the investigations to be a distraction. Barclays said last year that Britain's financial regulators were probing links between Staley and Epstein, who killed himself while awaiting trial over sex trafficking offences. Staley has previously said his relationship with Epstein ended in late 2015 and that he regretted having any relationship with him. Barclays shares fell 2% following the announcement. Staley will be replaced by the bank's head of global markets, CS Venkatakrishnan.
And now for the weather. Present weather is partly cloudy skies and winds are a light breeze of 7 miles per hour from an easterly direction. The temperature for today is 26 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves not exceeding 4 feet. The weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis today will be partly sunny in general with a 40% or moderate chance of brief passing showers. Tonight will be fair to partly cloudy and cool conditions with a 20% or slight chance of a brief passing shower. Sunset today will be at 5:39 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 6:09 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.